It's week 10. This is the top 45 running backs ranked and tiered. So before Sunday, let's break down these updated running back rankings for week 10 of the 2024 NFL season. This is E&M Fantasy Football presented by ErvinandM.com, where I combine industry-leading data, Vegas sportsbooks, and expert analysis to provide you with optimal weekly rankings for the utmost accuracy when setting your weekly lineups in your fantasy football league. I'm running this on Tuesday night for Wednesday's video. Expect more videos later every week for the other unit groupings like wide receiver, quarterback, and tight end. And click the playlist in the top right so you don't miss out. Packers, Browns, Raiders, Seahawks are all on bye, and yet we begin the full PPR running back rankings with tiers thought only to exist for wide receivers in the air raid era. The over-under totals and performances from these backs this season have been outstanding. Let's just get into it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. We begin the S tier with backs for 100 yards. It's unreal. And you already know Saquon Barkley. 7.5 point favorites, 101 over-under, 124 yards per game. He faces Dallas, the 30th worst run defense. No more to say. Derrick the King Henry. 6 point favorites in the highest scoring game of the week. 93 over-under. 127 total yards per game. My God. Devon Achane. 50 total, 88 over-under, 86 yards per game without Tua, 116 yards per game with Tua. He faces the 24th worst Rams run D. Lock him in. He's going to be in the S tier. Probably a lot more. Jahmyr Gibbs. 3 point favorites. 50 total. 89 over-under. 106 yards per game. He faces Houston's 12th best. Nobody cares. Lock him in. Alvin Kamara. They're 3 point dogs, but it's a 47 total. So it's nice. His line is set at 106. He's averaged 101 yards per game, and he gets Atlanta's 23rd worst run defense. My God. Joe Mixon. 50 total. 106 over-under. 124 yards per game. My God. It doesn't matter that he's facing Detroit's 7th best run D. It matters a little bit, but clearly Joe Mixon is their best player with Nico and Diggs gone. And Tyrone Tracy Jr. 5 point favorites. Only a 76 line, but he's averaged 105 total yards in his last 4 games as the lead back of the Giants. He faces the league worst Carolina 32nd run defense. These are your top 7 running backs for week 10. They are your best running backs according to Vegas sportsbooks, and these men's averages per game. They catch passes. They have good matchups with high implied team point totals, putting them in the best position to go over 100 total yards. Ludicrous. A tier begins with the rest of the elite running backs. Any of these guys could finish top 7. They are projected for 90 to 100 yards by major sportsbooks. Aaron Jones at 8. The man's only got 3 touchdowns in 7 weeks, and I know that hurts everyone's feelings, but 104 yards per game is monstrous. 92 over-under. It's an immense total set at 48. They're 4-point favorites against the league average Jaguars run D. Lock 'em in. JT at 9. 47 total, 88 over-under, 108 yards per game for JT. Unlike Aaron Jones, though, Taylor scores a touchdown in basically every single game. So they are underdogs in this one by 4 points, but Buffalo is league average against the run, and with a high total, Steichen is going to need his best weapon, and that is JT. DeAndre Swift at 10. Nearly 7-point favorites. 85 over-under, 92 yards per game. He gets the 26th worst Patriots run D, and they are sizable favorites by almost an entire touchdown. This is going to be a beatdown. And what happens to a winning team up in the second half? Say it with me. They run the ball. Bijan Robinson at 11. 3-point favorites, 47 total, 95 over-under, 99 yards per game. Boys, this is insane. New Orleans is up in flames. They just fired their coach after losing to the Carolina Panthers, which is hilarious. Somehow, though, it's still a close game at 47 points, and they're only favored by 3. That being said, the Saints are 25th against the rush. I mean, bet on Robinson getting his 100 total yards. Najee Harris at 12. 46 total. They're 2-point dogs, but 64 over-under is just insulting to the highest degree. This man has averaged, get ready, 93 total yards per game. 93 total yards. This has got to be the first time that he's in the A tier. I don't know, and I don't know how long. He gets to run all over the 28th worst rush defense, the Commanders. And believe it or not, JD5 and the boys, like I said, they're only favored by 2.5, not even a field goal. Pittsburgh D and this new Wilson-led offense is cooking. And Harris should absolutely smash the over. His line is just unbelievable, truly. And we'll go back-to-back with opposing backs in the closest game of the week. Again, like last week, this week there's only like 3 close games. The rest are complete boat races. With Breece Hall and James Conner at 13 and 14. Both have averaged about 90 yards per game, and this is set to be an absolute slugfest all the way down to the end to 46 points. Both teams have sub-20 run defenses. We should see them both go to Pound Town, just like you do every night once your parents are sleeping, you dirty little sinners. God sees you! He sees you sinning. And Kyron Williams at 15. 3-point favorites. 51 total. Second highest scoring game of the week. 109 over-under. But only 90 yards per game. I mean, his total is insane. His average, extremely respectable. He finds himself at the end of this tier simply because he has the worst matchup out of all of these people, facing the totally back Miami Dolphins, who are 13th best against the run. So, for the last guy in the tier, ErvinandM.com. ErvinandM.com is my company my best friend and I started in 2020. We literally make everything ourselves by hand. We have earrings, rings, necklaces, bracelets, tie clips, apparel, and more. Over a dozen curated gemstones and 100 handcrafted products. If you need a gift or something special for yourself, use the promo code in the description, find something you love, and buy it today. Now back to the video. Support me, support you. Shop at my store. I built it. My partner and I handcraft and make everything to order ourselves. Like this handcrafted inlay ring. Like these bracelets. Like my tie clip right here. And this hat. And if you don't like spending money and looking good, then subscribe. It's free. And at 16, we're going to start the next tier with the rest of the starting running backs. I know it's too good to be true. These guys are projected for 80 to 90 yards. Ludicrous. This is the B tier, boys. Do not get it twisted. These dudes are still putting in work. We'll kick it off with James Cook. He gets virtually the worst run defense in the league. The Bills are 4-point favorites with a high point total. I mean, Buffalo is trending upward while Indianapolis is suffocating like Anthony Richardson after the game in the locker room after tapping out. Lock him in. And Monty, David Montgomery at 17. 66 over under, 79 yards per game. Houston is the 12th best against the run. Now, what does that mean exactly? I'm glad you asked. It means they allow 114 yards per game on average to backs, compared to, say, Carolina at 32, who allows 159, or Detroit at 4, that only allows 106. That being said, no one runs the ball like the Lions, and only Cam Akers and Antonio Gibson weren't able to go over against Houston, respectfully, who have been struggling in the absence of Collins and Diggs. Monty's going to get his 80 yards and probably a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard at 18. 81 over under, 88 yards per game. In spite of being 5-point dogs in this one versus the Giants, his production has been excellent and hasn't hindered in being dogs all season. The Giants are 29th against the rush. Hubbard is their best player. He'll be fine. J.K. Dobbins, nearly 8-point favorites against Tennessee this week. They are 11th against the rush, though. And Mason Rudolph has been playing twice as good as Mayo Boy. That being said, though, it's hard to imagine Dobbins doesn't get his 80 yards as nearly 8-point favorites. My God. Lock him in. Kareem Hunt at 20. Again, it's the 9th best run defense. That's not what you want to hear. They face Denver. But then you hear that the Chiefs are 10-point favorites. 10-point favorites. So I guess he'll be fine to get his 80 yards, 87 yards per game, 77 over under. Denver and their run defense. Tony Pollard at 21. This is where it starts to get a little dicey. Matchups, in spite of scoring totals, are not good. Pollard has been outstanding, even amidst playing through injury last week while big sports media and the Titans were seemingly convinced he was going to sit. He has to face the Chargers' 8th best run D, and they are nearly 8-point dogs in this one. I mean, that is very bad in general and for a back. But it gets worse. Chase Brown at 22. Brown, after his best performance of the year, sans Moss, has to face the number 1 run defense in Baltimore. In Baltimore. This is the highest scoring game of the week, but the issue here is that the Bengals are 6-point dogs. When you couple that with the matchup, and it is tough sledding. I mean, it's the definition of tough sledding. You still feel pretty good about these guys. There are so many of them. I mean, for God's sakes. That brings us to the C tier. We're officially in handcuff/terrible offenses/terrible matchups territory, but the madness continues. These guys are still averaging 70 yards per game. Their matchups and point totals, put them here. Ramondre Stevenson at 23. 6.5-point dogs. 71 over under, 69 yards per game. Stevenson's performed well, especially considering his offense. May's definitely changed things for the better, but they're still down by a whole touchdown against Chicago this week. And even though the Bears are 20th against the rush, the game script is going to prove to be too much for the Pats and especially Ramondre to do anything that matters for you and your team. Brian Robinson at 24. 64 over under, 75 yards per game. He's been in the A and B tier all year. These injuries and Eckler in the mix, though, have dampened things, though. But nothing dampens him more than Pittsburgh and their fourth best rush defense. So even though they're favored by 2 points, JD5's game script should be to throw the ball against the below-average secondary instead of pounding the rock. And we'll go back-to-back with White and Bucky here at 25 and 26. They both average about 70 yards per game, but they are projected for only about 50 here, and it is simply because they are not only 7-point underdogs, God damn it. Simply because they are not only 7-point underdogs
Today, Junior,
but they face the 6th best run defense, the 49ers. Sportsbooks tell us they're going to get boat raced. And if we look back to last week, we see what happens in their offense when they're losing said race. Not good. Not good at all. Rico Dowdle at 27. He's played better than he's getting credit, but it's not going to save him this week, or you in your matchup this week for that matter. The Cowboys are nearly 8-point dogs in this one versus Philly, and Philly's 5th best run defense. Very bad. Very, very bad. CMC is next. I mean, I don't know. At 28, I mean, nobody knows. At the time of writing this, it was unclear whether CMC is going to return. But we're going to listen to fantasy doctors here. They expect a 50% load with a 3-game ramp up to 70% productivity. And from there to the rest of the season, it's going to remain the same. So, I mean, that's better than him not playing, I guess. I don't know. Pretty much, that's the last thing anyone wished for the 101. His matchup is good. His consensus line early was set at 77 over-under, but I wouldn't touch that at all, and you shouldn't either. Javonte Williams at 29. I mean, he's played okay, but unfortunately this week it doesn't get any better as the Broncos have to face the Chiefs at home. They are 3rd against the rush, and the Broncos are 10-point dogs. It's totally Jover. It's as bad as it gets. Not good. D tier. And it's still 40 to 60 yards. It is absolutely insane. These guys are scary because of the matchups. These guys are all solid. And then the jump is just, the dip is monstrous here. Monstrous. We'll kick it off with both of the Jacksonville backs, Bigsby and Etienne at 30 and 31. Bigsby has averaged 68 yards per game, while Etienne has only managed 53 per game. The issue for both of them, though, is that Travis will continue to share the workload here, and they are 4-point dogs against the 2nd best run defense this week, Minnesota. They only allow 81 yards per game. That's how good the 2nd best is. So split 81 yards in 2, and that's what they're going to get you. Devastating. Tyler Algier at 32. Algier has a chance to put some points on the board in relief of Bijan and the pounding that should ensue upon the Saints organization this week. It's a 42 over-under. He's averaged 51 yards per game. He should be fine to get his 40 yards, but I doubt he gets 50 and definitely not 60. Raheem Mostert at 33. 50 yards per game is decent, but his line set at 33 yards is fitting. In spite of the Rams' below-average run defense at 24th in the league, Achane is the lead back, and it's not even close. Mostert will undoubtedly mix in, maybe even vulture a touchdown, but he is no longer Raheem the Dream Mostert. This is Devin's backfield now. Justice Hill at 34. He should be able to get his 40 yards, especially considering the game script and Cincy's defense. His line at 25 over-under, though, is insulting. He should honestly get more work, but I mean, what would you do if you had Derrick Henry? Yeah, exactly. Austin Eckler at 35. Robinson Jr., we assume, will reprise his role as the lead back. As we said before, Pittsburgh is 4th best against the rush, only allowing 90 yards per game. So give him 30 of that, and it's not helping you win your matchup. Devin Singletary, 36. A 20 over-under pretty much says it all. The Giants are decent favorites here at 5 points. Singletary's averaged 55 yards per game. But Devin has pretty much lost his job entirely to the rookie Tracy Jr. The league's worst, Carolina, won't even pull him out from that role, and certainly not into any kind of fantasy relevancy. So that's the last of the viable guys. From here, it is RIP. It's 40 yards or less. We'll move quickly. Jaylen Warren, Ray Davis, Roschon Johnson, McLaughlin, Allen, Jordan Mason, ? Antonio Gibson, Kimani Vidal. You know what I'm saying? Buy something from my store. You know what I'm saying? Look at this hat. Look how good this hat looks. Jesus Christ. Trey Benson. Throw anyone else in there that aren't on the list. I mean, it's been the year of the running back. I'll throw your backs full screen on screen now. And I sincerely hope this helps everyone watching. Support the channel by subscribing and turning on post notifications so you can see all the videos each week before submitting your lineups. It's free, so it's a good value. But if you like spending money and looking good, check out my store at ervinandm.com. We're a two-man show at E&M. There's no better way to support me than by buying a gift or something special for yourself, like this hat or this stuff that I'm wearing. Look at it. Buy it. Everything's handcrafted from limited stock here in North Carolina by my partner and I. We ship anywhere in the U.S. Don't forget the promo code. Watch some more videos.